Primo. How did the job search go today?
So this was your husband?
No, I mean, he was just a boyfriend, and it never really went anywhere.
You were at work when the victim died?
I was fired today.
Wow. You are having a bad day.
Right?
I'm single. You dumped Primo?
Not exactly.
What happened?
He died.
What? Who?
Primo Schultz.
Did I hear you mention the name Primo Schultz? What a beautiful man. Some say a genius.
Genius?
He was a gifted artist.
Hi, girl.
You know her?
I walk her sometimes when Primo's busy. Where is Primo?
He's dead.
What?
He just needed a lot of attention, you know.
So you knew Primo?
Well, I was a parallel lover.
Everybody here sleep with Primo.
So was Primo the father?
Hi.
God, I can't believe Primo's dead. Man who met everyone and did everything.
Would you like his dog?
Hi.
Hi, come in.
I was worried because I didn't know if you got home okay last night.
Do you want a Pop-Tart?
I've got a story I'd like to tell. It's in pieces for right now. If you only knew all the facts, if you only knew all the facts, yeah.
It turns out that my ex-dead boyfriend was the most exciting man that I have ever met. Of course, while he was with me, he was pretending to be a total loser. Goodbye, Primo.
Primo? Primo Schultz?
Thank you so much for being here with us on a Friday to talk about your awesome, dark, funny movie.
Well, thank you very much. It's good to be here. We shot it just a few blocks from here, so it's nice to be back.
What inspired the story for you?
This was a book that was adapted to a screenplay by Billy Morissette many years ago, and I'd been asked to direct it then, and this was back when I was still on ER before, and I ended up optioning the book and not getting it done then, and I just kind of kept it in my back pocket and after 10 years of the option actually finally being up, it was like, whoa, we really have to make this now. So got it together, and but it really was based on the fact that it was this book and it was a screenplay that really made me laugh.
What about it resonated so much with you?
I think the fact that it's such a personal story. It's really from Heather Graham's character, Mary Crowley. It's her point of view of what happens when your life has come to a point where it's not going anywhere. Everything is a dead end, emotionally, creatively, all of it. And then through this kind of crazy happenstance of your boyfriend, who you weren't really in love with necessarily, is dead, and you're forced to start examining and looking at who he was and realizing, oh my God, I wasn't even aware of who this person was. And then she goes on this journey of trying to find out who she is.
How did you, and let me backtrack a second, Heather Graham is a revelation here because she is so sarcastic and so, like, her moments of bitterness are just some of the funniest things I've seen in a long time. And I mean, just the scene where she comes in and finds him dead and she's talking to the bar, like, how did you think to cast her as this character? She doesn't get roles like this at all.
Well, a lot of it came out of Heather's enthusiasm. She had read the script and very much put a play in for it, and she really wanted to play that role. There was something about it that really connected to her, and for me, that means a lot, because I know as an actor, when something really feels like you've got to do it, that means you got something special to offer, and she did that, and she just came in with such enthusiasm. I really was like, wow, this is the person who's got to play it.
So how did you go about setting up the story? You shot on location in New York. So take me through that, because New York really is, I mean, even the dog run scenes are so New York.
Yeah, well, this really goes back to, like I said, it's the book. It's Arthur Necessian wrote this book called Dog Run. And he lived in the East Village in the 90s, so it was a very personal story for him. So all the details of it, which I found interesting, are right there in the East Village. So it really was about finding that apartment and then being able to, we kind of were able to walk to most all the locations for the film, which in the low-budget indie world is a real asset because you're not trying to like make a space movie. Everything we needed to tell the story was there.
And by the way, thank you for making the apartment look like an actual apartment that a temp in New York would be living in. Instead of a mansion with views of Central Park.
Well, there's something about the limitations of no money that makes for reality coming through. And we had great art direction. Sarah K. White, who did that, just really kind of made a lot out of we have these fantasy sequences too, and they're really kind of simple, but big in their concept.
Now, you've directed before, you directed episodes of ER. Do you find that being an actor gives you extra insights as a director, or do you keep the two completely separate?
I think the actual process of filmmaking of every day is the more you're around it, the better you are at it. So I think, and to be comfortable in a playground in which you need to use a lot of the different tools is helpful. So I mean, I think the fact that I've been doing this since I was 16, and I really know physically how a day has to be accomplished is helpful, and I think just the fact that I knew that if you're going to direct, you really it's got to be something that you love, and this was something I loved, so I knew that I was at least being truthful to my intent.
What kind of director are you? Do you storyboard, or do you just, well, I guess with an indie, on a small budget, filming on location, you probably can't be, I mean, you have to plan ahead. Yeah,
you have to plan ahead, I think, probably even more than any other time. I mean, and I think television's a good training ground for that, because it's really the limitations are money. I mean, not, well, money, but really time. And so what can you accomplish in that amount of time, with the resources you have? So I always approach things with every day knowing exactly what shots I need to make sure we get the day, and then anything we can add on to that can be gravy or can be, will help. But if you don't make the day and you don't finish the scene, you're not coming back. So you don't have that extra slush. So I think being prepared is a big, and that's the fun thing. It's really working with your DP and figuring out what can we accomplish and how can we make it interesting.
What was the most unplanned or the most surprising moment for you that was unplanned, whether someone stepping into a scene or something happening that you never foresaw, but it really worked?
Well, there's a sequence at the end in which we have to kind of we had to recreate Wigstock, which was this wonderful, big kind of transvestite, wonderful show that would happen every year, spontaneously there in Tompkins Square, and we kind of made this call, and we had an incredible amount of performers and wonderful, drag queen performers that just showed up in great spirit and created this environment that was really fun to capture.
And I have to ask you, John Corbett is a very good-looking man. How did you make him look so dead in the beginning? I mean, he was so, I was like, ooh,
yeah,
even
he
his
really
waxy.
looked dead. Yeah, well, that's what color, it's amazing when you take the color out of someone, what happens to them. John Corbett plays the dead boyfriend in the movie. Primo Schultz, and he does some pretty outrageous things in the movie, which was John, to his credit, was just game and gung-ho, and came in, probably only worked 2.5, 3 days on the whole movie.
That's it, really?
But just did a lot of work and a lot of really crazy things in those 3 days.
How did you get this whole cast together?
Had a good casting director, but also, went to friends and went to people I had relationships with. Scott Michael Foster, who plays the young love interest in it, he is an actor I worked with on a TV show for a year, and I just really appreciated his honesty and his talent. And there's a song that he sings in the movie, which is actually the end credit of the trailer there, and that was him. That was one of his songs. So a lot of the actors I knew from before, but it was really, I think, the material is what drew them, because it's a really character-driven film, so there's a lot of scenes with actual dialogue, and so they're coming and actually getting to perform and actually getting to do scenes, which is rare sometimes.
Isn't that sad that that's actually a rarity, that you have a movie about grown-ups for grown-ups dealing with grown-up issues?
Yeah, but I think it's transitional, and I also think we actually shot this movie 3 years ago, and but since then, like what television is going through in its heyday now is really positive. I mean, I think because of this digital medium, because of the ability for us to live stream or do like this movie's video on demand, that it makes it much more accessible, and writers are going to be able to tell more of these stories. I mean, I think it would be much easier to get this movie done today.
Well, you're probably right.
Yeah.
What are you watching?
Last night I was catching up on Westworld. Oh. Wow.
I mean,
pretty brutal. Really. And that was like, for me, I was a kid when that movie came, the original movie, and so I had this kind of vision of what Westworld was. And Michael Crichton, I guess, keeps coming back into my life.
I mean, your show, ER, God, I remember watching it. It set a whole new standard for television.
Yeah, it was an exciting time, and I think that's a real credit to John Wells, who created that Michael Crichton's original idea, but the idea of getting real doctors to oversee and make sure that technically what we were doing was accurate and kind of coming from a truth that way really set the tone for the honesty of what that was.
How does that impact you as a director, or does it?
It kind of reinforces what I love, which is that it all has to be based on some kind of reality. And that's where I think we can all relate.
Now, this is also, I cannot even believe this, the 30-year anniversary of Top Gun. Friends, this is Goose. Give Goose a round of applause, please. How do you look back on that film? I mean, it's one of the seminal movies of, it's just, period. I can't even quantify it. Like how impressive that movie was and the careers that it launched.
Yeah, once again, you just feel lucky and grateful. I was in the right place at the right time.
Oh, stop! Give yourself some credit. You were incredible.
Well, I mean, I was able to do what I do well, I guess, in the right place at the right time. But it's really about a collaboration, and Tony Scott, along with that DP and that combination of music and that script, that it was all happening at the right time. That it hits those moments that people respond to, and then generationally respond to. So,
are you still in touch with any of the cast?
Not so much.
You guys don't have a Top Gun text chain?
Yeah.
No?
I mean, making movies is an odd experience that way, in that you have that time that you're with, but your time of making the movie and that experience is very different than what it's like to see it as an audience. As an audience, you then have a whole other experience. So, and as an actor, you go and you see something 6 months or a year later, and you're like, oh wow, that's what that all added up to. So. It's not like, I think that's why actors get drawn or come out of the theater, where, at least in theater, at the end of the night, you're like, that audience you were with saw that, had that experience. So maybe that's why we're all a little crazy, as it gets too disjointed.
What did you take away from watching the finished product of My Dead Boyfriend?
Well, this is, when you make a movie as a director, you're so involved through the whole thing that it's very odd to have the experience I had, which is, I finished and cut and did the movie, and then it took about a year and a half to sell it and go through that thing. And so now in seeing the movie, I realized, oh wow, there's a quality to this that I didn't necessarily intend, but it's there, that it feels like a movie of the 90s, and I'm really happy for that. So I feel like, wow, something happened organically because of the way we made it that is true to the story. So I'm proud of it.
Are you ready to direct another one?
Yeah, I am.
Any thoughts?
I've got two different scripts that I like a lot, that if I can pull together and once again find the right combination of people, could be fun to do.
For you, what was the most unanticipated challenge of making this, aside from selling it?
I have to say it wasn't inherently hard. I mean, I found it went really smoothly. I guess it was such a positive experience. I mean, I don't know, maybe the hardest part was that 2 weeks into it, I took a Sunday off and ran the New York Marathon, and the marathon was hard. That was it's like it's an anniversary of this weekend. That was hard. But to be with people that work so well, that are such such good actors and really such good technicians. I sound like Pollyanna, but it made my job really easy. It was surprisingly professional in a way that I didn't expect.
And when you look back on your career, you've done some incredible work. What is a project that you've done that you never thought would be as big as it turned out to be?
That I didn't think was going to be big?
Yeah, that you did, and you were like, oh, this is nice, it's fun, it's good, and that just had either a huge impact on you or really hit with an audience.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe Top Gun was that, I mean, it was something like, I thought it was like, this is good, this is an action movie, but I had no idea that it was going to be that big. Yeah, I really didn't know.
What goes through your head if you watch it now?
I'm proud of it. I mean, I saw it, they re-released it in Blu-ray on DVD and they did a 3D, and I saw it at the Air Force Museum in Patterson, Ohio, and I was like, wow, this was really, it was special.
And that's yeah.
And not me. I mean, really the filmmaking. I mean, he was trying and doing things way ahead of his time.
Well, I think it was just kismet, right? Everything came together. The cast, the story, the timing, that volleyball scene. I mean,
Yeah.
it was all there. And let's turn it over to our audience now.
Yeah.
Hey, Anthony. So do you find more creative satisfaction from directing than over acting, or do you prefer doing one over the other at certain points on a?
I think in the kind of just pure creative connection, it's hard to be any more connected than you are when you're directing, because you're dealing with every element of the film. And as acting, it's satisfying, but in a very kind of isolated way, and that you have your experience as an actor and the scenes that you did and work with those people. But for being a part of the whole picture, there's no better job than directing. That's for sure.
Next question, please.
How you doing? I'm Chris Laos from Philly.
Hey.
Go Eagles. My question to you is, when directing, how important or not important is it to stick to your plan once you get to your set? Like, say if you have a plan and you get there, then you see something else, or you have a hinge for something else.
I think it's totally it's great to deviate from your plan as long as you have something better than your plan. But then also having the flexibility to be ready for anything, because you'll lose a generator, or you'll lose something, or time, or it'll start raining. So you have to be ready to adjust. But to go into a day without a plan is the worst case scenario. You got to have some kind of a plan.
And we have time for one more question.
Hi, thank you for coming. I was excited to hear that this movie was set in New York and actually filmed in New York instead of Toronto, like some other movies. What kind of challenges did you run into filming down here, if at any?
I've shot a lot of things all around the world, not as a director, but been on sets all around the world. And I find shooting in New York really wonderful in its energy. So I think it's always worth it. Challenge are always in the fact that you have to kind of integrate into a neighborhood, and people live there. So it's making sure that everybody's courteous enough to make sure you're not stopping people's day, but getting the work done that you need to get done. But I think there's just so much intrinsic production value to being in the city that exists, and especially when you're working in micro budgets, that everything becomes free artwork.
It's true. It's almost like New York is Heather Graham's boyfriend in a way.
Yeah, and that city really is a part of it.
Thank you so much for being here. And when can we see it?
It is available right now. It's on video on demand as of today. And
It's super funny. You guys will definitely enjoy it. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.